Support for Headline Humboldt is made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, the Humboldt County Special Olympics is asking for help after a New Year's Day break-in left them in the financial hole. A large amount of equipment was stolen. Also, we sit down with incoming auditor Mychal Evenson, who will join us to talk about his career with the county, the state of the auditor's office, and what he hopes to accomplish. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. The skies down south are stained with smoke and the red haze from seemingly endless burning acres, while countless families are left suddenly homeless and traumatized in the face of yet another natural disaster. This has been a more and more common occurrence these last several years as the changing climate turns the landscape into a tinderbox. Immediately after this tragedy began, there has been a concerted effort by some despicable few to turn the conflagration to political advantage. Many of these muckrakers are the very same folks who have been the loudest deniers of climate change. Now, instead of dealing with the evidence in front of their faces that climate change is real and the danger high, these folks want to blame other public servants as if these fires could be avoided if we cut more taxes or deported more undocumented immigrants. These cataclysmic events aren't going away, and yes, smart governance may help keep people alive. But the real and fundamental problem is climate change, dry conditions, and high winds. And until we all cohere around an effort to fix that problem in the long term, I fear that this will be our future. Now, speaking of responsible governance, joining us in a few short moments is the soon-to-be incoming county auditor, Mychal Evenson. We'll talk about his career, the auditor's office, and how sound fiscal governance helps a community prosper. But first, the news. A storage locker belonging to Humboldt County Special Olympics was broken into early on New Year's Day, and a large amount of supplies necessary for the Olympics were stolen. As a result, the organization has issued a statement asking for help. Quote, "This theft strikes at the heart of one of our most vulnerable communities. Special Olympics provides a safe, empowering environment for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, allowing them to thrive through sports, camaraderie, and inclusion," the press release states. "The stolen items are essential to maintaining the programs that inspire and uplift our athletes," unquote. According to program officials, stolen items included first aid kits, uniforms, pop-up tents, travel bags, helmets, and even the beloved Olympic torch. The torch was later recovered, and officials from Humboldt County Special Olympics say the response so far from the community has been amazing. Funds are still needed, however. Unfortunately, replacing the stolen item is a significant financial burden, and we currently lack the funds, said the press release. A GoFundMe account has been established to raise the needed money. You can see it on your screen. The group is also asking for the community's help in bringing the perpetrators of this crime to justice. Anyone with information should call the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office at 445-7251. County officials this week moved forward with a tentative plan to help the Yeehaw Village near Trinidad get legal. The long-running commune off Quarry Road has attracted the focus of county environmental health officials who fear the site is a significant health risk. The commune is a 10-acre property that has been the home of roughly 33 people, give or take, for decades. Back in September, the Board of Supervisors gave property owner Charles Garth, 39, weeks to fix the code violations or face eviction and abatement. This week, staff reported to the Board of Supervisors that since that fall meeting, Garth and his tenants have made significant progress on addressing many of the public health concerns. Meanwhile, Garth is moving ahead with a petition to turn Yeehaw into a fully permitted alternative lodge park, a lengthy and expensive process that includes more than $100,000 in costs and would require that Garth pay his unpaid fines. Staff, however, told the board that the best path forward would be to amend the tiny house village provisions of the county's zoning ordinance so this property could legally accommodate its multiple residences. Improvements already made to the site include the installation of 2 portable toilets and a hand washing station. A test of the well water revealed no bacteria. Staff reported that Garth and residents appear to be making a good faith effort to fix the situation. The Board of Supervisors approved a plan to help Garth get his property up to code. It will also require that he pay $40,000 to county staff in reimbursement for the hours spent on the subject. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is the PBS app. It's ready for you whenever you want full episodes of your favorites. perhaps a little history, or the real story, shows with heart, or the latest news and docs. Even stream your local station live. It's all there waiting for you. So download the PBS app now for everything you love and a whole lot more to explore. Stream anytime, anywhere with the PBS app.
Life is complicated enough. Why worry about what to do with your extra car? Skip the costs of maintaining it, storing it, insuring it, or renewing registration. Car repairs? Forget about it. Here's one easy solution to your car problem. Donate it to our station. It's fast, free, tax deductible, and if you donate, you're going to feel incredible knowing you're supporting quality programming. Interested? Just call this toll-free number or donate online. Thank you.
Joining us now in studio is Mychal Evenson, who is going to be the incoming Auditor Controller for Humboldt County. Right now, he is the Deputy Auditor Controller. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been talking about the role of the auditor, and it's way more involved and complicated than I think some people would assume. But let's start with sort of a global picture, Mychal, if you can, and help our viewers understand what precisely the auditor's office is responsible for and how it differs from the treasurer. I know that sometimes they kind of get conflated. If you can speak to what the job description is for an auditor controller.
The auditor controller is the chief accounting officer for the county. We're, of course, responsible for general ledger entries in the county's books, accounts payable, accounts receivable. The treasurer is essentially boiling it down to the basis of level, is the county's investment keeper and banker. Okay. She's responsible for the banking and financial relationships of the county with its bank and investment agencies. So it's
you guys are sort of like the accountability part, right? Like
yes.
Making sure that the amounts that are being stated are what they say they are, basically.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why they're separated is it allows for checks and balances to make sure that what happens on our general ledger matches what happens in the bank.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we maintain that double check to stay up on, or to make sure that everybody's staying on the up and up.
Now, is it a thing where, I mean, basically, if there's a county department and it has a budget, you're going to be combing through it, or your department will be ultimately looking to make sure that what they say are their expenses and their revenues turn out to be factually correct? Is that like a basic summary?
That is a good basic summary. We do a lot of that in conjunction with the county administrative office. The auditor controller is ultimately responsible for making sure that departments do not overspend their allocations. Mm-hmm. We do that. We have our software system has functions built into it to help us with that, so while we do have staff that goes through and checks these things regularly, the software system really does the heavy lifting for us there. So it's been really important to maintain that and keep that going, and we re-implemented that back at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, and it's been a big benefit to the county.
Yeah. Now, people might be familiar with your name. You did briefly run for Auditor Controller. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, there was a rather controversial auditor who was in office for a little while, and Cheryl ultimately ran against her, and you dropped out of the race and threw your support behind Cheryl. But can you talk a little bit about that whole process? When that auditor took control of the department, you actually left the department, is that right?
Correct. I was working in the accounts payable team in the Auditor Controller's office. I saw some writing on the wall, and I went over to the Department of Health and Human Services, to the Public Health Division, and worked as a grants accountant and analyst, and spent a lot of time working with the various programs in public health. I think I had 12 of them assigned to me. Excuse me. I had 12 programs assigned to me that I did all the accounting for, or not necessarily accounting, but I did the grant planning for.
Yeah. Do you think that helped prepare you for what you're doing now? I mean, at least the exposure outside of the auditing department, or what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think working at any level in the county, working in a department, any department is invaluable. It gives you perspective beyond just the credits and debits of what's happening in the county. It allows you to see it as a large, living, breathing organization that has often conflicting needs, and to have a perspective of thinking about the bigger picture and not just credits, debits, financial reporting, because sometimes we have to make those decisions of maybe slightly imperfect accounting to accommodate the need for a grant program to account for something perfectly in their grant so that they can get reimbursed for it, instead of a cost being incurred on the county because maybe the Auditor Controller's office was a little bit too tight on an accounting perspective. So getting those perspectives, learning those things, invaluable, and I encourage anybody who wants to climb the ladder at a government organization to spend a little bit of time working in a department, specifically a program.
Get you away from the sort of black and white thinking, right?
Yes.
Of like, well, the requirements say it has to be this way, and if it's not, then I'm going to freak out. Well, that's not always the case in real human life.
Yeah, and with good planning, you can think your way through those things and establish a way of maybe not having that slightly imperfect accounting, but if you can reconcile it back to perfect accounting, it doesn't matter. You can get to the perfect accounting. The problem lies when you are unwilling to have those to operate in gray area, which, I mean, the county is a very large organization. We have 20 departments. Our budget's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. There's a lot of gray area, and we just have to think through it and plan through it and understand that it exists, and live within it so that we can build good systems.
Absolutely. Now, so you decided to run, and then Cheryl Dillingham announced that she was going to run, so you backed out, and then she ultimately got elected, and then you came back to the department. What was it like when you guys first assumed the reins of the auditor's office? And talk about what you guys have had to do over the last 4 years to get things back on what you would say is sound footing. It
was a challenge. So my first month when I was in the return to the Auditor Controller's office, the county had been sued by the state of California for past due financial reporting due to the state, and Cheryl comes over to me and hands me the lawsuit and says, "I need you to do this." And my first day is October 1st or 2nd, and this is due October 31st, and you need to have it turned in on time, otherwise we're out of compliance with our financial reporting, because there were so many accounting changes made over the previous 3 years. All of the reports that we relied on to do that report were broken. They didn't work. So you had to get the information somehow, other way, right? I built the report by hand.
Oh my gosh.
Went through every single transaction, or not every transaction, but every summary level of transaction, and plugged the numbers in where they went. I ended up turning it in a day late, but
superhumans can only do so much. Right?
I was in communication with the state the whole time. I was very fortunate. We have a really great representative at the state who works with us on these, and they were very happy they were happy to see the progress. And so the one day to them was not the end of the world, as long as I was in communication with them, and they could actively go into the same website I was working in and see that I was making changes and making progress, and that the numbers, I was just refining to make sure the end numbers balanced. And once we got there, she was happy with the 1 day late submission. They got the county out of that part of the hot water in the lawsuit, so it was all overall positive. But when I first started, it was...
You mentioned that you were down to only a handful of employees.
Normally,
I guess you have 18, you mentioned?
Yeah, our fully staffed department has 18 employees, including the Auditor Controller and the Assistant Auditor Controller. I think when Cheryl started in July, there was 7. By the time I came on in October, she had hired a few more. She had been kind of selective of the order. She knew she could handle a lot of the accounting stuff, so she was really shoring up the property tax team and building that up her first few months. So that was where we were. We'd built up the property tax team, and I think when I came on, there was 9 or 10 people, so it was still very much a building department. And today we're at 17 of 18. We have 1 current vacancy.
We're going to take a break real quick. We'll be back in just a moment.
KEET TV is calling for community champions. Want to make a positive impact? Join our Community Advisory Board and help shape the future of your local PBS station, KEET. We're looking for passionate individuals throughout our viewing area, including Crescent City, Willow Creek, Southern Humboldt, and beyond, especially those from diverse backgrounds. Meetings are quarterly and held online. Visit KEET.org to learn more and make a difference today.
Ever wonder what happens to your car when you're done with it? Will it be taken care of? What if donating could give you access to more of the television you love? We'll use the proceeds from your donated vehicle to help fund your PBS station and give you access to our most popular member benefit, PBS Passport. With Passport, you can stream a massive collection of drama, mystery, history, music, and art programs. You're going to love it. Complete the easy online donation form today and we'll take care of the rest. And thank you.
So I've never been in charge of an auditor controller's office, but I've been in lots of other crews, and I know that when you have a green crew, that presents its own challenges. Can you talk a little bit about the difficulty of having to, train up a group of people and make them into a finely tuned auditing machine? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? How long does that take? I mean, yeah.
I think we're there now where people are overall very trained up. They understand the parameters of the job, but we're 2 years in. It took 2 years where Cheryl and I were really shouldering a lot of extra burden, shouldering a lot of extra work to get this done. It's been overall extremely positive, and I don't want to say that as a negative thing about the team. The team has worked very, very hard, and has studied diligently and effectively every day to get better. They've learned what the resources are for the job. They're doing great. It's just when you're new, you're new, and it takes time. So
and there is a small advantage to that where you can train them properly. Mm-hmm. There's no bad habits or accumulated issues to deal with when there's a fresh crew. It's like they're all ready to be sponges for the proper procedures.
Yes,
right?
And just learning that proper procedure. We had a few people who we promoted from other departments who there was a little bit of retraining, but they were very adaptive. They through effective training and instruction, they learned the real parameters of the job. So it's been a great experience, and I'm really, really proud of the team at the office. I can't sing their praises enough. I think everybody every day is working really hard to make sure that the county's accounting structures are transparent, accountable, consistent, all of the important words that come with accounting. It's been a joy, and it's not just in training people on the book smarts of the job, but training the people on the soft skills of the jobs, of how to train people in other departments. Mm-hmm. Because often we're asking for things that there was a substantial amount of turnover at the county over those few years, and we're asking for things that some of these people are also new. They've never heard of the things we're asking them for. So providing that training to them and saying, when we need this, and they go, what do you mean? I've never heard of this. Being able to train them on what that is, how to get it to us, and in what format, and why it's important. All of those things have really done wonders. And I countywide, I want to really express appreciation to everybody in almost every department. We haven't had a whole lot of one-on-one contact with everybody, but everybody we've worked with has been well-intentioned and maybe just didn't understand what they needed to do. And with just a quick training session on this is what we need and this is why, everybody gives it to us. And that's been my experience top to bottom through the whole organization.
So talk a little bit about what you guys had to do that was outside the normal responsibilities of an auditor's office. I mean, it was the responsibilities, but from previous years, you got handed a large dish of work, whereas normally you take it a year at a time, right?
So since walking through the door, it has been back to back to back to back audits.
Wow.
So that normally you do one audit a year, generally speaking, October, November-ish, so that you get it turned in on time for the March 31st deadline. So
that's 6 months worth of work, basically. Each audit is normally.
I would say 2.5, 3 months under normal circumstances. That's a long one where there's struggles, but the county being as big as it is and as old as it is, we always have some struggles on audits.
Of course.
You give yourself the padding, you build in that padding to be able to have those struggles and to work things out and get things done right. And then you update your systems for the next year so those same struggles don't happen. But It's a challenge. We're anticipating being fully caught up spring of next year.
Okay.
So that we'll be able to turn our attention from just audit into internal operations and internal accounting, which we're gonna do some wonderful things at that point.
Yeah. What would you say that you and, I mean, Cheryl's obviously leaving, and she's kind of like your mentor, it sounds like. But what do you think that you guys learned out of all of this, and how do you think it's going to make the department better overall? I know that we talked a little bit about before the show, and you said some of the changes that were made by Cheryl's predecessor were good changes. A lot of the style that went into it maybe wasn't the most constructive, but you guys, what do you think has come out of all of this that will help, things go forward more positively?
I think one thing is there may have been some, because the Auditor Controller's Office had run so smoothly for so long, there was some misunderstanding of the value of the department, where people didn't know what could happen if the Auditor Controller's Office, if things went wrong in the Auditor Controller's Office.
Yeah.
So I think overall as a county, both county of people and a county as an organization, we really value the Auditor Controller's Office more now.
Yeah.
So when it's an election we're taking more seriously, it's an office and as an organization that we're taking more seriously. We understand now what happens when the Auditor Controller's Office is either doesn't get what they need or doesn't accomplish the work.
Yeah.
Both things on both sides of that perspective.
Can be cataclysmic in some ways.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I was shocked about with the whole thing that's happened over these past several years. You mentioned to me that you have 2 master's degrees from Rutgers, which you got while you were working full-time for the county. That's a large amount of qualifications and education in order to do the work of the Auditor Controller's Office. But there's nothing that specifies that someone has to have that training to run for the office. So someone could post up, I mean, there are some requirements, but it's not like as much as I would think would be necessary to ensure that there is a continuum of service.
Yes, there was recently a new law passed by the state that I don't believe our board has adopted yet, but it does now require some level of working for a government before, I think it's 3 of your last 5 years that you have to have worked for a government before you can run for Auditor Controller. That would probably help. So that helps a lot with the continuity of operations. And there is the requirement that you have to have at least a bachelor's degree in accounting. I went with the master's degree in government accounting because government accounting is hard. It's complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, and the rules are different than any other form of accounting. So when I went specifically for that, because I knew that was the path I wanted to walk in my career, and I wanted to be the best person I could be for the people of this community. It's really, it's a position you take with a public service perspective, not one you take with a personal enrichment perspective, because
it's not really a leaping off point, right? I mean, people tend to see elected offices as stepping stones. Like you take this job for a little while, and you move on to the next one. I mean, these jobs like this, and I think treasurer is probably along the same way. That it's not something you can take and hold only temporarily and look to move on. Because if you do, you're probably not going to give this really complicated and important position all the attention it maybe deserves.
And if I have my way, I will retire as the Auditor Controller. So it's of course it's ultimately up to the people of the county of Humboldt to. And it's been up to me to provide them a confidence in my work, but it is my goal to be in this position the rest of my working life and really just keep and maintain the county's accounting records in a way that's accountable, transparent, and keeps good track of our financial resources so that our board and our county administrative office and the departments can make good, effective decisions about their moving forward about their operations, because ultimately everything we do boils down to money.
What would you say is the most challenging aspect of your job? We talked a little bit about it before the show, but I think people would be interested to hear.
To me, the most challenging aspect, and it's also the most rewarding, is there's a balancing act between absolutely perfect GAAP accounting and maintaining, and GAAP and generally accepted accounting principles, and maintaining the needs of the programs and the people of the county. As as employees and the departments of the county, we serve the people. And there are times where there's gray area between what the program is doing. Maybe it's operating on a different basis of accounting than the county. Maybe the program operates on cash basis and the county operates on modified accrual. Or the program operates on full accrual and the county operates on modified accrual. And accepting those gray areas and studying them and then acting on them in a way that you can then reconcile back to perfect accounting. But also allow the department to do what the department needs to do to make sure it gets paid back for its services from the federal government or whatever the bigger picture need of that is. It's a challenge. It's also kind of fun, and it's very, very rewarding when you get it right and the county doesn't end up out money it doesn't have to be out.
What would you say? I mean, you're going to be entering your first term. You'll be up for election in 2 years. Then is that how it's going to work? Or
I believe the election will be in 2026, or I know the next election will be in 2026. I don't know the exact month at this point. That's Juan Cervantes' responsibility.
That's funny. But so what do you see as the big challenges coming up for this year? And are there any changes that you're itching to make or things that you're looking to do now that you're going to have the authority? Over
the last 2 years, we've really made most of the significant changes that need to be made. We've got the accounting structures really back in place that need to be there. And we didn't go from like prior to the rules prior to Karen to the rules to her rules to back to the prior rules. Because the county kind of went wronger, and now we're right. And so we're moving forward is continuing this path of doing things right. And so from here forward, it's minor corrections. There's been just a few accounting related things that are more bookkeeping and nuanced that need to be shored up, but they're not
policy issues.
They're not policy issues. They're training issues. And I think that's just countywide. That's what everybody I've worked with. It's just training, teaching them what they need to do, why they need to do it, and everybody does it. Once they understand what they're doing, they do it.
And then you mentioned before that the relationship between the county administrative office and the auditor's office is really important. Describe for us how that looks at this moment. I mean, I know that in the past there's been some grief, but it seems like Cheryl repaired that and things are solid moving ahead for the next couple of years, right?
The auditor controller's office can't do their job without the CAO, and the CAO can't do their job without the auditor controller. It goes both ways. So the CAO, of course, is in the county of Humboldt is responsible for setting the budget.
The county administrative officer. The big kahuna.
The auditor controller is responsible for enforcing the budget. So there's some requirement there that the two be on the same page of what the budget is and what it looks like, so that the auditor controller's office and its team can enforce the budget set by the CAO. There's also some requirement that the auditor controller's office set accounting principles in a way that is conducive to making a budget. This was one of the things we struggled with, is that the accounting structure at one point had a lot of things that caused things to get reported twice in our budgets, and which made budgeting a big challenge.
Well, that's all our time for today. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us the run-through on what you guys do, and congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
That's it for this evening. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, stay informed.